All right, we are live. Now we're going to be waiting for Ron Nicholson for just a little bit. I think my mic's good. Let me know if you come on and the sound's not good. Um, and Dan Pancaldi should be coming in later. This was a little ad hoc. We were playing Twilight 2000 4th edition. I've been running that series with Dan and Ron. We filmed last Sunday, and I said, hey, you guys want to come on a Chiefs vlog Saturday and still film the following Sunday? And they said yes, but I know snow is hit. So Ron said, hey, lost track of time. I'm out shoveling. So when Ron gets in. And Dan's in Canada. So there's always something to shovel in Canada. So we'll see when he comes in. Also, through all of that, sorry about the double posting of the live show. I had a weird, I wouldn't call it a hack, but several people got emails from me a few days ago. Not everybody on my list, so who knows? Some kind of emulator bot thing or whatever. Clearly, I did not send the email with some weird Russian link at 2:32 in the morning. But for precaution's sake, I reset my Google password. And of course, that meant every device I had was having to be relinked. And I think I've got that ironed out now. Here comes Ron. We'll bring Ron in. Ron, we are live. So you're in and we are live. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Excellent. All right. I know you were out shoveling. How much snow did you get in Ohio?
Well, first we got an inch of ice.
Oh,
and then
really?
we got snow, 3 inches, 4 or 5 inches on top of that. You got a mess.
Yeah. We had snow drifts like crazy out here, but not too bad. They cleared everything up pretty quick. So thanks for coming in. I don't know if Dan's going to be able to make it in or not. He didn't respond to the message, and then I tried to FaceTime and he hasn't come in, but that's fine. Let me introduce Ron Nicholson, a longtime fan of the show, Patreon backer, and was willing and able, yes, to join my role-playing session with Twilight 2000 4th edition. And one thing we'll talk about today, Ron, and you've got Dratus as your character in. We'll kind of get your views on that in a second. Before we do that, you even mentioned what you're playing RAF right now on the table war game side.
Yeah, it's the Eagle version, German solo, Battle of Britain. Really an intense game.
Yeah. How long does it take? You play both sides? Is that what you're doing right now? Or no, it's the solo. It's the solo.
Yeah. It takes 14 hours.
Got it. Now you can play from either side though, right? Don't they call it the Eagle?
And then if you just the Royal Air Force solo is the Lion version.
Got it.
And then you got your two player, of course.
Right. Vorpal says hi real quick. We'll do this. Nathaniel Robinson's in. Same. Hi to both of us. Vorpal says he got a foot of frozen snow on the ground here in Indiana. Yeah, I saw that whole like polar explosion coming through.
Sleet.
Yeah. He hasn't left the house in 2 days. Snowbound. Well, there you go. It's a good time to get in some gaming.
Is he bragging or complaining?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to tell. Could go either way on that one. So also I'll be sipping on some Glengoyne 10-year, which is a real malty tasting scotch. Let's see what else we got here. All right. So we'll wait a little bit. Like I said, I've got a feeling I should have confirmed with Dan a little earlier, made sure he was still good. Of course, you and I both know, I don't think it's a secret, he was also doing some job interview stuff on something, so maybe that kicked in.
I think he got reinstated at Amazon.
Ah, okay.
So all right. Maybe you might be working today. I'm not sure.
Got it. I didn't know that. So real quick, we can always circle back, but as far as role playing goes, Ron, give me your highs and lows for what we're doing with Twilight 2000.
Well, probably the low is that I'm pretty new to role playing and new experience for me. So kind of getting in the zone, getting in the mood, getting in the character, is a transition, but you get used to pretty good. And the high, of course, is the imagination factor. It's theater of the mind, and
100%.
that's a very engaging.
Yep. Yeah, that's the part that I've loved as well, which is one area where the rules say you can deviate. There's a little bit more of a, I'm going to do a review on the Twilight 2004th edition soon because they include like a bunch of rules that make it almost like a tactical war game with maps, battle maps, and even counters. And I was very interested in that because I love tactical war games. But when I got into reading it, and not only would I have a problem technically, but I could do this when I'm in my solo version filming it, I found it much more engaging with just sticking with the theater of the mind.
And one thing that really makes the game is the game master, and you're doing a great job. You're painting pictures for us.
Good. I'll try to keep doing that. So, early on, I was hoping Dan was in. I thought I was losing Dan a little bit. I got a buddy that's been role playing for years and years that I work with, and I said, hey, I could kind of feel like you were into it. You were really, but I thought I was losing Dan. And then I asked Dan, and he goes, no, I even dreamed about this twice. And I was like, what?
Well, so, I think it really helped for me to be wounded for an entire day, and that shifted everything over to him pretty much because I was unconscious.
Yep. Yeah, that was cool. He just decided to reverse course, head back, ran into some problems, runs over to Kepno. Has a drinking bar type experience, makes a friend, Jakob. Yeah. And that wasn't her. But even I wasn't sure how well it was coming across. And then he told me, hey, no, very good. So, and I've refereed in this case, or GM'd or DM'd or whatever, a few times at home. My son, Bo's 14, really prefers role playing. He'll do board games and he plays some war games with me and stuff, but he likes to, even then, he's kind of thinking role playing situations. And I'd mostly use the Fate Core system, which is definitely, it's very theater of the mind and rolling and action and what did the dice. So it was a fantastic result. What happened? And then, so this was a little crunchier, a little more structured. But I definitely felt like as we went to theater of the mind, it really worked better for me too. So I know I've had some errors now and then. So folks that are watching that are seasoned role-playing gamers or even referees, GMs, I think they've been pretty forgiving. I did catch some very good productive criticism on my solo one. You know how I do the card flips for the random stuff, and I had a weighted, like I'm flipping 3 cards to see if these NPCs that we ran into are going to join and do XYZ. And I flip and they were all negatives. They're all black cards. And I thought, well, one of the spouses really starts to work on her husband. I'll do one more flip. And I flipped and it went our way with a red card. But I had a very good role-playing fan say, hey, I felt a little cheated there. Like you had it on rails. Now this isn't with you and Dan, this my solo, but he was right. And I noticed even when I was editing that section that I thought, man, I should have just stuck with the harshness of what happened. And I've done that very well with you guys, I think.
Well, one thing I noticed that really surprised me was Dan's character encountered some bad guys in a bar, and you were drawing black cards, which I thought were bad, but they turned out to be good because it gave an edge to his character. And,
yeah, that's really a lot of fun with the way this system works and the way the card system works with their they don't call it a bot. They call it their Oracle. Is I don't even know how it's gonna go. And then you or Dan are adjusting to what that is. And of course he actually did what his character should do as his seasoned sniper instructor, kind of lost it and got a little mad. And then that we thought, how did that go? And that ended up, it was like two tough guys meeting each other, and then they gain a little mutual respect, and then it turned into vodka drinking. So, yeah. And that's really been the joy for me too, is I'm not planning everything out. The rules for the solo in this, and even for the refereed play, says, don't spend, they consider it a hex crawl. So rather than a dungeon crawl where you're moving through a dungeon, it's these hexes on this Polish map you're moving through. And it says, don't ever spend too much information or too much time on plotting it out, because who knows, I have a few ideas, or there's some threads that I've got that can happen, but it's really wherever you guys go or decide to do. And that's been a very cool part, because you'll throw me for these positive loops every once in a while, but it doesn't matter, because we'll just see what the cards say or whatever's going on.
Well, one thing that's pretty critical, we don't want to overlook, is how you set your character up at the beginning. I was trying to pick strengths that he did not have, so we'd have a balance. And then as you gain your experience points, do you spend them all at once? Do you save them up? So there are choices to make here.
Yeah, good choice along the way. I'm going to go to some more questions here. We'll come back. So Vorpal says he wish he was playing. Vorpal, one thing I may do, I'm still working full time, got the kids at home, still doing the Scotch Whiskey Show, still reviewing some board games that are coming in as well. But I'm really enjoying the role-playing aspect. So as time goes by, as I get better, as tech gets better, I would not mind actually running some more sessions. But I know one thing. I'm going to run what I've got. I'm really kind of at the max of what I can do on some of my stuff now. But stay tuned, because so we'll go out at least 4 years. In 4 years-ish, I plan on retiring fully. But that just means I'll be doing more board game stuff, role-playing stuff. My partner co-host on the Scotch Whiskey Show, he started at a police department 2 years before me, but he just retired and got hired by a whiskey company. So I don't want to do that, although they've said, hey, when I'm ready to go, they'd hire me there as well. But I think I would rather dial in and do more of this. I find it extremely enjoyable. So Vorpal, it may be 4 years, but if I get better at this, it could be less than that. So I know 4 years sounds like crazy time, but my last 4 to 5 years with the police department are just flying by. Let me see some more here. The Twilight 2000 RPG combat system is horrible. It's different. I don't know about horrible. I'm not good enough on RPGs to tell. If you're comparing it to a tactical board game, war game, yeah, I don't think, that's one thing where it fell a little flat for me.
It's abstract.
Yeah, I'm used to Conflict of Heroes is really my go-to. And I feel like, although I get into the theater of the mind, I do feel like the rules and everything's working in the tanks and the troops and the turn systems and the chip pulling or whatever you're doing. Whereas here, in preparation, I pulled out the maps, the counters, played around a little bit, and it felt two-dimensional. Whereas the theater of the mind, I felt like I could see it, and I felt like I could explain things better. I was a little nervous when we started, Ron, because I thought, am I going to be able to do this with you and Dan? And then it worked, and it worked. So
it did work, yeah.
Yeah, not that it's been perfect, but you've been great. And my RPG buddy, I talk to him every once in a while, and he would give me cautionaries because, I said, hey, one thing is I would think you guys were going to go one way and you'd go another way. And I said, how do you adjust that? And he says, well, what did you do? I said, well, they just went with the way they did, and we kind of handled it on the fly. He goes, that's exactly what that game's built for. And it means I don't have to do a lot of setup time or prep. And then there are no railroad tracks that I got to put you on. I had no idea that Dan was going to turn around and go back north.
Or I was going to fix the headlight.
Yeah, the headlight fix, and then you're running with the headlights on, and I'm thinking, man, headlights at night in a Russian vehicle, this could end up with you guys getting shot at. And then we had that random Joker pull, and I started using the Mythic 6 system just for some random event type stuff, and it worked perfect. And it was so cool when I think it's, what was his name? Jakob? I think it's Jakob.
Yeah.
Yep. And he jumped on top of the BTR 60 and started singing the Polish national anthem and was a little bit tipsy. And you guys rolled right into somewhere. I wrote down how to pronounce that Russian town or Polish town. Sorry, Polish town. But I mean, I was like, I could see it. I was like, this is awesome. One headlight. And you guys were rolling into a town, and you had friends almost immediately because he's singing the national anthem at the top of his lungs as you guys rolled in. And that wasn't planned. You know, I mean, it just happened. So
it's a big surprise.
Yeah. So Vorpal says, tell your player he has a +1 and watch the confusion that follows. Yeah, there is some of that because when you say +1, it means the die goes up from, let's just say, a D6, it goes to a D8. So you're not adding 1 to the die roll, you're actually upgrading your die. And that does take a little bit of a mental, because the natural thought is, oh, you're +1 here. Oh, I just add 1 to my die roll. Nope, you're rolling a higher die.
And for those who don't know it, you don't need a physical die. You can go to Google and say roll 2d6 or 2d10 and roll 3d12 and it'll do it right away.
Yep. There's tons of people that have like their favorite dice rolling emulators. I read some article once because a lot of people worry about what is the code behind the die roll? You know, how is it truly random? And yeah, what do you got there? Yeah, see, look at that. And that's what you primarily use?
When I'm playing a game on the table, when I'm doing the RPG, I'm going to Google.
Got it. Very cool. All right, let's see here. So Nathaniel, how helpful is it to Twilight 2000 to know about tactics? Could newcomers jump in? Newcomers could totally jump in. So, you know, it's theater of the mind. So it's really what you explain and how you explained it. You know, and even sometimes with you guys, I'll ask questions just to make sure, like, are you guys going to do a recon or, you know, are you using your binos or your scope? And Dan's always like, of course, you know, why are you asking such a question? Of course, you know, but, you know, that's just so I'm knowing and getting the picture and whatever's going on. How good are the tactics?
Well, I'd say some of it's just common sense. Like if you're manning a machine gun on one of those technical vehicles, you're really exposed.
Right.
So I didn't want to jump up there and take on the Russians with that thing.
100%. Yeah, and then on your other combat, you were hunkered down by a tree. Mm-hmm. And the tree actually, I had to look it up during that combat. It because it showed you got hit, but I thought, oh, you do have cover from the tree. So the rules said there's a die that I can roll that says either head, torso, arms, or legs. And you had an arm hit. And when I double checked the rules, it said, well, cover. If you're shooting, if you're not in full cover, you're in partial cover. It just covers your head and your torso. But it makes sense that you're out and you're shooting, or you're out on the other side and shooting, that you caught one in the arm. So it actually made sense. And that's what I've noticed too. You know, I went and referred to the rules on that, seeing what it was. But even after I read the rules, I thought, well, that makes sense. You know, now I've got to practice whenever we get into, when I think, you know, I've got some of the combat stuff down, but there is some stuff like because you always get a slow action and 2 fast actions. or what is it? 2 fast actions or a slow and a fast. I don't know. I always got to go look and I kind of take a peek before we come in because you could shoot and pop behind like a cement wall, and then they wouldn't even see you at all. The only problem would be if they fired an RPG at the cement wall, and then there's a blast radius if they hit and stuff I would have to figure out. But that's actually some of the nice things about it is there's not too much to figure out. You know, when I do a review on it, the only thing I really, really didn't, well, there's 2 things I didn't like. I'm used to war games that give you all kinds of charts or, you know, player aids, and short of buying this referee screen, which is like a privacy screen, which I didn't like, I've got to flip through and find things. Like I know page 40 is where all the skill stuff is, just because I have to keep going there. But I do wish, and I think there's an online, well, I know there's an online deal because I've gone to their forum where some people have made these into things you can print out. And I need to do that because it's hard to reference within the book. And board games, of course, do it, in my opinion, do it much better. I'm sure there's role-playing games that have a lot more charts, but
on the subject of tactics, I would say that one lesson I learned in the Air Force is you never run from cover to concealment. Concealment is things that block line of sight, but they don't block the bullets. It's like shrubbery, and cover is things that block bullets, like concrete pillars.
Right.
You never go from cover to concealment.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah, and that is the nice thing about it. And then I can generally, they do have a good index, so I can refer to the index, and then the other thing is, if you guys, I mean, sometimes combat's just coming your way, and other times you're able to completely avoid it. Sometimes you may be looking for combat. You know, I thought for sure that Dan was going to get into at least a fist fight with Jakob in the restaurant. I thought that's how it was going to go. But the way he chested up, and then I said, you know what, if we flip this card and it goes your way, I think he respects your challenging mode. That's what he would do. That's what your character would do. And then it worked exactly that way. Or it was going to be a big old fight.
You drew those black cards and it turned out good.
I know. You can play the game on autopilot. I don't know if I'd say that, Vorpal, because it really, even on my solo, the Oracle provides, and then one reason I'm using the Mythic emulator, and I've been practicing just because coming up with NPCs, I've been watching Me, Myself, and Die, and he was using Une or whatever it's called, and it helps with character creation. I haven't been using this, but I realized if we ran into a group of folks, or in my solo one, I needed some ideas that would just automatically create various types of personalities. And I picked that up off of Drive Through RPG, and I was practicing some stuff with my son and even with my wife on how these roll-offs create a character. So open sandbox, very much. Let's see, what's Vorpal doing? I'm attempting to create a system for incorporating module plot ideas to a card deck draw. I think that is a card deck crawl, maybe. Well, that's cool too. The cards are interesting because like this is all 100 percentile dice rolling to set up stuff. And the cards definitely give you a binary yes, no. And then if you're looking for what type of marauding group this is, you can draw a card and just look at the suit. And, you know, diamonds would be money-based, whatever way that makes sense. Clubs is violence-based. Hearts is empathy-based. I forget, spades is something like, I can't remember. And then the low to the high, you know, if it's a Russian squad and it's an ace of clubs, it might be a crack Spetsnaz group that you've just run across, or a T-72, or, you know, something brutal that you would want to run from rather than fight. What a Modine. Looking great, gentlemen. Wishing you long life and happy gaming. Well, thank you. I'm right back at you. Uwe, back. Hey, troops. See, it's nice to come on too. Part of the deal, even if Dan couldn't make it, I thought I'm going to come on because I actually miss engaging with even Vorpal, who usually calls me ugly.
That's not nice.
Oh, I'm so used to it. You see the cops saying, "Man, what are you doing? What is this stuff here?" Cops don't like facial hair in general, which is one reason I like to be different. One fast action, one slow action, and one free action. Man, I thought it was one fast, one slow, or you could do two fast. And then there's always a free action. Some free actions are, I can't remember. I'd have to look. But autopilot means he will naturally know what to do when it happens. Oh, okay. I thought it meant it just ran itself. So let's see. All right. So, so some more of your perspective or thoughts, Ron, as far as, I mean, even your character, how do you get into the mind of your character?
All I can say is just try to picture yourself in that situation and what would be important, and what you have to prioritize things. You can't carry everything. So you got to decide, what do you want to be able to do with what you carry?
Right.
And so that's how I chose my weapons to begin with. And one thing I really liked was when I needed the medical care, my character needed that medical care, we were trying to decide what level of doctor we would get. So he drew a card, and like a 2 would have been a dentist to cure a wound in my arm.
Right.
And 5 would have been a veterinarian or something.
Yeah, I think we went with a vet. Vet's probably even maybe a little better than that, but I thought it worked. And had you pulled an ace, you might have had a full-out combat surgeon that had been fighting and ended up in the town, and you might have been ship shape, ready to go. And
but I really like that. That's a big plus. Adds a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, and enjoyment for me too, because I'm like, how's this going to go? Nathaniel, since he is not here, what do you think of Dan's playing style? What is it like to play off of him? So I'll go, and then I'll let you go, Ron. I love it. So Dan brings this like energy that really translates through the camera, in my opinion. I think it's why his show is so good. I think him being a musician, that creative mind is there. And, when I'm flipping a card and he's like, wait, it's like, and then he's like, you're bringing negative energy to it. I think that makes it entertaining for me. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Ron?
I think what's engaging is to have a little conflict between your characters and that are on the same side. And the conflict I see is Dan's character is one of, if I could say it, fortune favors the bold. He's bold. My character is more like, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. So my character is much less bold, more circumspect, cautious. And it's kind of fun to play those together.
Right. Yeah. And how the tug of war happens even between your characters is entertaining, and so the characters, I think, are working well. I like his play style because I find it engaging. The only time I've had, so if I've played some role-playing games where the person or a person that's playing isn't letting you into their mind. And again, what Ron said with theater of the mind is exactly it. So I've had a character where I'm like, what do you want to do? Shoot. It's like, and I'll even pause. Okay. Which weapon? Well, my handgun, of course. Okay. And it's just, and now again, this isn't you guys or anything. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I can't tell them the handgun. And so I'll be like, okay. And then, are you moving? No. And it's like, oh, okay.
Give me something, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only time for me when I'm gaming that a person's play style, it might be all kicking off inside their head pretty good, but for the other players at the game and for the referee, it definitely helps when the thinking process is out loud, and I think you guys do that great. You guys will be kicking back and forth, and you're like, well, I think, I'd like to fix the lights. And, Dan's yelling, no, come on, leave the light, or whatever is going on. And you're like, no, I want to do that. And it's because, and I think that is, it becomes like it's well, it's not real, but it feels like a real process of decision going on.
Yeah. It's realistic.
Yeah. I mean, and there's times where things have happened where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm watching a show, and I'm the one that's literally like, flipping the card. But I like the when I switched over. So when I switched over, you can see the one set of cards has the picture on it. Those came from the Kickstarter, and those look great, and they're a nice little deal on the table. But when you flip it, you can't really tell. You can see that's a spade, but you can't really I can't even see. But here you got an ace of heart. I know it's in the bag. But when I switched over to the actual poker deck, it was so much better. And I even almost went with, and I may at some point buy some, they got those ones for nearsighted people where everything's even bigger. I'm going to need that soon. But and then even when I'm doing the solo game with the evil character I have, when I flip to the camera. So I see it about the same time the viewer does. And that was the one upgrade I did, was go grab a deck of cards, just because these totally work for that. But like, this is a 6 of spade, and when I flip it, you can't tell until I get like way in there, and you can see all the little codes for the road and everything. So it's still very helpful for me for a random encounter, but it doesn't give the viewer, well, there's one. Now I'm shuffling in the initiative cards. It doesn't give the viewer much of an action pack system, like actually seeing the cards do. So I found that blend to be rather nice. What is this? I think if I stand next to Chief, Dan, and Ron, I come off looking like freaking Brad Pitt. Well, Vorpal, we don't know what you look like, so maybe you're a hottie. I don't know. So, but you might, with my beard going here. So definitely, I don't know. I like the beard though. I like it. But see, that's Vorpal. That's what I miss. Vorpal reminds me of the police department, because if you show up like this, immediately they're like, ooh, mountain man. It's something negative right off the bat, but it's said out of love. Uva, it's called a role-playing game for a reason, eh? Exactly.
Playing a role.
Yep. And then McKenna, have you played any OCS, and what do you think? Great show from Colorado. I haven't played any OCS. If we're talking about the, I forget the acronym, it's the war game system. And I do have to ask Mike, what part of Colorado? I grew up in Evergreen, Colorado. Then I moved down to Littleton, worked at Southwest Plaza, and then I moved to Wichita in 1995. And Ron was in Colorado Springs for years.
5 years.
5. So Mike, OCS, I'm assuming, and I forget the acronym, but I know there's the OCS like war game combat system that I thought was used with, was that with the Civil War game, Ron?
I just don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. So McKenna, go ahead and throw us a little something on there. I got a McKenna that works on the police department. So I'm sure you that's not you. Trust me. Detective McKenna is wild and crazy. Nathaniel, how do you feel about the skill advancement system? Reading the rules, it seems like particularly detailed stories would delay getting new or better skills. Well, I've probably been slightly deficient. I have been on my solo side. I actually need to do a breakout and just do some roll, some of those point systems to improve. Ron, I think we've gotten better. Where I was deficient early on was making sure we were properly tracking, but we've been doing that better.
Better, yeah.
And then anytime somebody wants to, of course, they can use the points they've picked up to improve a section. And
I think there's an exponential curve.
There is. Yep, there is. So you can be a generalist and be kind of good all over the place, or you can really dial it in and focus. I actually like that aspect of it.
You got to get a lot of points to build up to the top level.
You do. And then there is the caveat that if you were to spend, I don't know, let's go back to Kepno. Let's say, well, he was a veterinarian. So let's say you spent some time there for whatever reason. You could train with the vet. And so you might pick up a little bit of animal husbandry and be able to dress wounds at a better level. And I could see that working in. If you built that into what you were doing, hey, my arms tore up after we get back from checking out this prison, whatever happens down there. We're going to actually hang for a little bit, or whatever. I mean, that's where it's wide open. And I noticed you guys exploring that option just in kind of conversation a little bit. Operational combat system. See, and I've heard of the OCS, but I guess, Beck, what particular game was that with? I've heard of it. I've never used that system, and I can't remember if obviously it's operational, so it's in between like strategic and tactical, but I guess I don't know the exact system, although I've heard of OCS. I just never played around with it. Beck, as opposed to standard combat system, which is my favorite. Okay. I don't know how to compare the operational or the standard, I guess. We have ambush tweaked to a D20 is my favorite combat system.
I was a playtester on one of the ambush modules back in the 80s, the Silver Star.
Oh, Silver Star, the last one. Well, the last one for the European side. Then they had, Battle Hymn and Leatherneck.
Yep. My name's in the credits on the back of the rules.
Woohoo! See, that is cool.
Claim to fame.
That's it. No, that's awesome. That was as a kid, I bought that module, and then I bought Battle Hymn. And then I think that was when full-time work, college, Army was all going on, and I later picked up Leatherneck, but I haven't even played those scenarios. And I picked up, what was the tank version that people say didn't work well? I got it, but I haven't played it.
Was it Leatherneck? Or
no, Leatherneck was for Battle Hymn. I want to say it was Open Fire. That's it, Open Fire. It was ambush, but with like a squad of tanks. People said the ranges didn't quite work right, but I don't know. And then they had the 2-player version, which I picked up thinking maybe I'd use the maps, but I've never played it, and I'm blanking on its name. Let's see, what do we got here? Vorpal says you play tested Silver Star. You are a small tactical genius.
Well,
what was that like? How did that happen?
Well, we just me and a buddy. I was stationed in the Air Force near Dayton, Ohio, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Me and a buddy were gamers, and we just wrote a letter to Victory Games and said, "Let us play test something." And they sent us a Silver Star ambush module playtest.
Now, when it came to you, obviously there was no box yet, so they just sent you some like hand printed cards and the paragraph booklet and the maps, or how did they do that?
Well, they sent us kind of a hex sheet with a hand drawn map. I still have it, and so a few cards, just hand drawn, and back in that in the late 80s, late 1980s, you didn't have computer generated laser printer stuff.
Right.
So everything was hand drawn with watercolors and felt tip markers. And
oh, really? So that it was color. It wasn't just like a black and white affair.
yeah, like with a highlighter, you had yellow highlighters and pink highlighters, green stuff like that on the map to show terrain. And
That's cool. And then let's see. Vorpal pins a silver star to your shirt. Let's see. We've got Beck. OCS and SCS are both large series of games, war games, with core rules for all games and special rules for each release. OCS is much more complex than SCS. Got it. Yeah, and like I said, I've heard Greg Schmidtkins from Hamtag fame. I think I've heard him talk about OCS. I don't remember his thoughts on them, but I think that's where I've heard of OCS. And then, of course, I've seen it with there's many tactical war games where if you know the main system, you may get this faction, and the Russians have whatever. There are more troops or whatever. So I know you can work in the different rules once you know the system. Beck, I had no butt left to kick after Purple Heart. Yes, Purple Heart was my favorite, and I love the cover, tossing the hand grenade into the hatch of the Mark IV, if I remember right. And the map got a little weird on Silver Star. The colors were a little bit odd, but they were trying to model like the Italian campaign, right?
I think there's orange, a lot of orange on that map.
Yeah, it was
kind of weird.
Yeah, it was a little weird. So
don't blame me.
No. Let's see. As maybe a good topic here would be, we have Purple Haze, which is doing their it's not Kickstarter, it's GameFound. They're doing their GameFound right now. I did a preview of it. It's a cross between Ambush with like a paragraph booklet where decisions are made and actions happen. A bit of choose your own adventure flavor, felt like it was kind of touched in there. And then the battle cards were what seemed very innovative to me, because your card that you got showed ranges and the terrain, and then the die, or the different die that you put on there for each combat unit, or maybe it's an individual. The strength that it was at was how many hit points they had. And that worked really well. And they're still tweaking it. There's a chip pulling mechanic that can decide, what was it? Sometimes it was like special events that trigger, or that'll match a card. And then if they're close, they're throwing a hand grenade or whatever. But then the way you trick out your Marines, your 6 Marines, and how you can level them up, that felt a little bit like Ambush, where your squad is improving and you start not wanting to risk your better guys, but you got an advantage if your better guy is doing X or whatever. So what was this here? Purple Haze just put up an official demo on Tabletop Simulator. Cool. I had James Buckley on. He did a great walkthrough, and James is a role player as well. And he mentioned, after watching what we were doing, Ron, that he went out and I think he went and bought Twilight 2000 as well. So some of the things that were interesting for me, I role played as a young kid. I did some of the D&D, and I loved the theater of the mind, but the fantasy wasn't really quite where I was at. I mean, the games I played at D&D, there were only, less than 10, with another older kid GMing. They were great. I still have these visual memories of us dungeon crawling. But as I got into high school, or even middle school, I guess, I think it was 84, Twilight 2000 came out, and I had a buddy that had it. Now, it was funny back then. What I remember most is we had I think we had a 113, an M113 APC, and we were always having to make fuel. I mean, it was like we had this still. We had a small still, so we were always foraging for stuff to even, I think it was a wood burning still. And we were always making this wood alcohol, but I feel like we did a lot of that. There was foraging. We drove a little bit, and then we would be out of fuel. And I remember just thinking, getting all the gear I liked. I definitely loved the rifles and the packs and the whole military World War III thing over like swords and shields. But that was my memory. And then I picked up version 2 in the 90s. And all I ever did was read through that. I never played. Again, there wasn't a lot of board gaming even going on then, but it was a reading fun kind of thing. And so when this was coming out, I was excited. They did Free League, Ron, just put out that they're sometime, I think, in the first or second quarter. I think it's maybe in March, first quarter. They're going to put out a module for Krakow or Warsaw, all these cities. And so there'll be some extra things for the cities. And although there'll be some print lag, there will be a printed like module. The PDF will become available right away. And they're almost ready with that. And that'll be good because, as we're moving into cities, we've been in smaller city towns, but I kind of keep you guys on the outskirts a little bit, or you haven't really decided to explore an entire city. We can do that, and I could just, we would just free for all it. But I think idea of better situational understanding for me in the cities from this module will be nice.
Cities make me nervous.
I'm with you. You guys staying out of cities. And you're constantly worried about, hey, we're going to get sold out. And I think you're right. The more people around, the more chance you're going to get sold out.
When you got a price on your head, it only takes one guy to sell you out.
Exactly. Let's see where we were at here. So let's see. That's the simulator. Geeks played D&D. The cool nerds played Twilight 2000. Man, I remember some of my buddies that were more into sports, the jocks, they would make fun of even video game players. And I loved the Atari 2600 and all that. So, back then it was funny. We come from the era. Most people here, I can't speak obviously for everybody commenting, definitely Ron and I. Most of my youth was just playing outside. I think I was maybe 12 when we got the Atari, and that would have been 82. That sounds about right. And even then it was so rudimentary, Asteroid Space Invaders, but I was still outside, in the woods with my BB gun or building a fort or whatever. What about you, Ron?
I remember, I'm old enough to remember Pong.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We had Pong even. That was the very first game.
Late 70s, walking through the Sears.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this video game, Pong, playing on it. Man, this is something.
Yeah, definitely. And then, but I remember my sister brought up, she's 4 years older. She remembers when I was a little kid, like 4, all the neighborhood kids, we all had our little plastic guns, and you pull the trigger and it makes the machine gun noise. And I ran a squad of kids around the neighborhood. We were low crawling, and I don't know where I learned all this stuff. My sister used to kid me that I was reincarnated and that I'd, been in the military or something. Cause she's like, you literally were running 3, 4, and 5-year-old kids around like a squad, and you were crawling on the ground and coming around corners. And I'm like, I kind of remember that. I thought I was older. She's like, no, we moved when you were 7. So you were doing this from like 4 to 7 before we moved to the mountains. I was like,
Squad leader.
Yeah, totally. Oh, sorry, Nathaniel. He had my Pledge of Nemesis Lockdown just delivered. Wow, that's cool. I played Nemesis for the first time with a buddy of mine. Bo and I went over and played, and I got killed right away. And I got it's like Aliens is what it is, Ron. And then you're playing, and then they kind of broke the rules, gave me another character, and I got killed again. So I wasn't doing too good in that game. But my boy liked it. Chief, we played Twilight 2000 very differently. The original rules gave players too much equipment. Yeah, we had some gear. I don't remember overloading ourselves, but we had a vehicle. I just remember always short on fuel, which was probably pretty accurate. But I remember we literally, the players got a little bored with the referee, and we're like, okay, man, you got to find us a stash of fuel or something, because we're getting tired of just making fuel. And so we did, and then we got into some combat, and then it all unraveled, and we never played again. So we started with literally supply nups. That's cool. My evil Kanan Krieg actually has a bit too much probably right now, but part of his deal was king me, so he's trying to develop this like fiefdom, and he's created this area in Nizhno, which is north of Kalish, and it was cool. I looked into that town when I was setting it up, and there's an old mental hospital that historically the Nazis took over when they went in there, and of course we know how they treated folks with mental disabilities. So it has this dark feeling to it. Well, of course, Kanan Krieg, my evil narcissistic sadist, used that as a operator. He not an operator, a contractor. He ran contracting business with contractors, mercenaries, and of course he used that complex, that building, is his setup. So that's been going on in that game. So Mike is in Colorado Springs. Well, there you go. You guys might have been neighbors.
I just moved from there.
I got a good buddy of mine who teaches at the Air Force Academy. Wes Jolly's a whiskey guy and loves board games. He plays Here I Stand at least 2 times a year. And I'm like, I'm jealous. I've got it on my table, and I got people ready to play it, but I need to play all parts well enough that I can teach it to novices. And then this came out, and Ron, I've been totally captivated by Twilight 2000. Yeah. But yeah, Wes Jolly was Colorado Springs guy as well. Vorpal, I have a packet-sized unit that plays those original Atari games, Space Invaders, Missile Command. That is cool. I've still got my original console and the box. The box survived because it had all my plastic army men in it. Still does. I had, I remember one Christmas, I got Mount Navarone or something like that. It was this whole mountain that had an 88 in it, and on the backside it was like a cutaway. You had an elevator and the German troops, and they had all these great sculpts and wounded guys, and then the Americans attacked, and my goodness, I love that. I will admit to something. I think I was 11. It was a big box. Mom got it. I remember searching the house when they were at work until I found it. I then inspected the box. So I don't want to ruin anything. We all know where I got this on a, let's just say a ho-ho-ho holiday, just in case there's children. But this particular game was by one of the helpers of the grand old ho-ho-ho. And I found it, and I inspected the box, and I realized that the staples that kept it closed could be pried off ever so gently. And I was able to pry it off, open it up. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I got all the bags out. I didn't open them up in the bags, but I had a full inspection going on. Come the 25th of December, when I opened it, I learned what happens when you spoil your own holiday. There was not nearly the amount of joy. And I thought, Okay, I won't do that again. I ruined my own happiness. I should have enjoyed the delayed gratification.
Yeah,
We
Vic
had
Morrow. I
oh,
remember
I
Vic
loved
Morrow.
that. I loved Vic Morrow. I think I didn't catch Combat though until I was in Colorado. I remember catching it on like a Saturday, and I was captivated. I still think that is why I gravitated toward World War II. Did you enjoy that show, Ron?
Oh yeah, there was somebody on there named Jason something.
Yes. He was the lieutenant. What was his name?
Jason, can't remember.
Somebody in here will know it. We'll come back to that because Vic Morrow and Jason something, and he was their lieutenant. Don't forget Rat Patrol. I loved Rat Patrol, but in Colorado, it came on at like 1 a.m, and I would catch it just rarely.
Rat Patrol. Yeah.
So, both great collection card sets. Rat Patrol lunchbox. I was Star Wars. I had the original Star Wars lunchbox, but I bet you Rat Patrol was cool. Nathaniel's got to go. Thanks for the stream. You bet. See you later.
12 O'Clock High was a great movie or series also.
Yes. See, and I missed that. I don't know how. I mean, I've seen it since, but not the whole series, but the movie. I'm just starting OCS Korea. See, that's what's cool. You can, once you learn the system, you can pop around. That looks like a monster mic. Must be talking about your mic, maybe. I don't know. Uh-oh. We got, let me go kick this commenter off here. Love face. Hold on. That happens on occasion. We had to get rid of Love Face. Hello, Love Face. Mike here. What do we have? Starting with smaller chosen reservoir scenario. Great map, counters, but complex. You know, I was reading Colonel Hackworth's book about Face.
Yeah, I've read it.
His stories of his Korean battles. What was he? He created a unit called the Raiders. Is that right?
Well, he was a squad leader, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know Raiders.
Yeah, he created like a little special unit team that would go out, and they definitely are like a precursor. Well, I shouldn't say precursor because they had commandos in World War II, but the Guns of Navarone. Yes, I remember the movie, and that's where I think the play set came from too. Was that I did? Kabuki Kid is in. What is up? She is greeting everybody here. Let's see. What was this? Ate the marshmallow. Who ate the marshmallow? Maybe Ron.
Not me.
Let's see. There we go. Yeah, always watch Rat Patrol. Yeah, 2 a.m. Although it came on at the oddest times, and then they would play like 4 of them in a row or something. All right, my screen is now messing up. I gotta pop. Oh, Rick Jason. Was it Rick Jason?
Yeah, Rick Jason.
That was it. Yeah, he was kind of a stuffed shirt a little bit every once in a while. I mean, it was the perfect play. He was the analytical, and then Vic Morrow was that seasoned NCO. Mm-hmm. The guy with the BAR, that was like the big burly dude. Can't remember his name. Let's see. Bye spammer. I got rid of the spammer. We'll see if they pop back on here. Let's see. What do we got here? Vorpal, my uncle was a bomber pilot in 1945, and all he ever talked about was that TV show 12 O'Clock High. Was he a B-17, B-24, B-26, B-25? What was he in, Vorpal? I'd read a story where I think it had to do with the maybe it wasn't a story, maybe it was the video on the all the Hollywood directors that ended up making movies, and one of them flew on a B-25 and he forgot his earplugs. And I guess the way they situated the two engines on the B-25, it was unbelievably loud, and he lost his hearing. He actually had almost, I think, permanent deafness based on that. I had no idea the B-25 was that loud.
I think Jimmy Stewart was a bomber pilot.
He was B-24s. Yeah, he was unbelievably good. And he had just come back when they shoot It's a Wonderful Life. And I've got two of his books, and I'd read one of them. I can't remember which one it was called, but it covered his entry and how he flew, and he was an instructor, and then he became a commander, and he stayed in the reserves and even flew a couple missions in Vietnam, and retired from the Air Force Reserve as a one-star general, if I believe.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. It was very, very interesting. And the story, he had a little PTSD after I forget how many combat flights he did.
And I think he flew a bomber in a film.
Oh, really?
Strategic Air Command.
Ooh,
I think so.
I'm sure you're right. Yeah, when I read his story, I didn't know all of it, and I was like, I was amazed. Korea would be a hard war game. Don't know of a single miniature maker. Yeah, you love those miniatures. What I hear is you can use a lot of the World War II rules with Korea because they were still using the Grand. The M3 grease gun was huge. So it's at least what I hear. The marshmallow test. It's a test done with children to see if they can delay. Oh, yes, I've heard of this. Eat a marshmallow, and if they do, like 15 minutes, they will get 2, the delayed gratification test. Yeah, I have heard of that. They would even film it, and these kids would they'd just be captivated by this marshmallow. You have Kirby. He was B-17 pilot, never went to Europe. Okay. So you said your father, B-17 pilot, never went to Europe or combat. Let's see. Heck, just flying was hazardous. War ended 2 weeks before he was scheduled to leave. Okay. I talked to an old pilot. I went and toured a B-17 that landed here in Wichita, and I saw it like on the news, and so I went out there an hour before I had to go to work, and I went out and I was in uniform and toured it. But the pilot, an old pilot, was there, and he'd flown it. He'd gone out there to see it, and was wearing I think he had his flight jacket and his hat.
Was the picture behind me?
Oh yeah,
is Charlie Brown's B-17, all shot up, being rescued by Franz Siegel. Was his name Franz Siegel?
I think so. I always forget. But yeah, Charlie Brown was the pilot. That was their very first mission. And they got tore up. And Franz Siegel flies up, was going to take him out, but he recognizes that the tail gunner is basically kind of shredded in the back. And he started to feel for the plane. This was earlier in the war. He said had it maybe happened later, he probably would have just shot it down because of the devastation. But
he said he had a squadron commander told him, if you ever shoot a guy in a parachute, I'll shoot you down myself. You don't do that.
Yep.
And this plane was in bad enough shape. He said just like a guy in a parachute.
Yep. I remember that's what he stated, because he rolled up wingtip to wingtip and tried to point him over toward, was it Switzerland? Sweden. Yeah. And then they refused. And so he pointed them basically in the right direction. And then he shepherded them over the coastline so they wouldn't be hit with flak.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he turned back. And then what's amazing is, of course, Franz ends up moving to Canada, right?
Yeah, Vancouver, British Columbia.
And they end up meeting. And
1980s.
One of the best books I've ever read. And I'm trying to remember, what was it called again?
I've got it on my desk in there.
Yeah, go take a look if you want.
I'll
put it over here. It's a higher call, I think. I think it's called A Higher Call. When he gets back, we'll confirm. If you have not read this book, It is one of the best books I've ever read. We'll come back on here in a second. We'll get the headset back
Here
on.
it is.
Is it a higher call? Whoops, hold on. Let me get you on here. Yes, higher call. Perfect. A higher call. So if they've got it. So if anyone on has not read that book, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of background, I think it actually even opens up with Franz talking about post-World War II, and he's got his flight boots, his fighter pilot boots, and they're high quality, but it's getting him a lot of trouble because the German people felt like the fighter pilots let them down. And and he talks about what it was like post-World War II in Germany as a fighter pilot. And then it's counter telling you Charlie Brown's story, and then they go into pre-war, and they're basically, whoever wrote it, I can't remember who's the author in that one.
Adam Makos.
Makos did a phenomenal job. Perfect, because it then picks them up in their lives as they hit each other and meet. Yes, perfect. And then it takes you through the rest of their career. Nice. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. I'd had a sergeant at work, more seasoned sergeant than I at the time, had made a call. There was a guy out of suspicious character, an elderly man, and he was talking to him, and he noticed he had a heavy German English accent, American accent. And he said, "Hey, where are you from?" And he said, "Germany, originally, came here in the 50s. And he said, "Oh, that's good." He said, "Well, I flew for the Luftwaffe." And my buddy was a pilot. And so they were talking pilot talk. And he went and showed him photos of him in a 109 and all this stuff. And I was like, "Oh my God, I got to go meet this guy." And he ended up passing away. But I mean, and he had actually told my friend, "Hey, you got to read a higher call. And my buddy said, "You will love this book." And I was like, "Absolutely." And I was blown away. So can't say enough about it. Have you guys seen the new modules from Free League for Twilight 2000? Well, have they released the PDF for the city version, Krakow and Warsaw? If that's what you're talking about, Jaw, I need to go buy it immediately. I figured I would get an alert, but I have not gone to their website recently. They were also going to have the Black Madonna, which was a Kickstarter stretch goal, but they only did one, and that was the module. I don't have that module. I actually have the Vistula from the original, and I have the Krakow module. They had a different one for Warsaw, if I remember right. But if they have a new module, I will go pick that up. I'm all in, baby. All in. Kirby played Jack Hogan. Got it. All right, let's see. ASL, Forgotten War is Korea. Yes. I remember that. I think that one never got picked up or played as much by folks, but that's just my memory. Russian infantry doesn't look anything like Korean infantry.
Should it?
Yeah, I don't think it would. I do think you can model the Chinese and the way they just swarmed into there, coming right over the, what is it, the Yalu? Is it the Yalu River? Am I saying it right?
I think you're right.
Because I'd read that they were getting indications as they were capturing troops. There were North Korean troops saying, "Hey, that guy's Chinese." And even the Marines and the Army were like, "Hey, this guy isn't dressed like the other ones. He looks very different." And I heard that those warnings were being ignored up the chain, and then sure enough, here came the flood. No, my uncle was a B-17 pilot. Yes, got it, Vorpal. My father, a different story. My father was a crewman on the USS Tang. Are you
Submarine.
kidding me?
Wow.
Yeah. I believe they are credited with taking out a
Train.
locomotive. Yeah. Wow. Was he there for that, Vorpal? Was he there for the locomotive takeout? Because they literally put a crew in with some explosives, went up and blew the bridge at the right time, and they got credited with a locomotive. Amazing story. I'm not usually into the submarine warfare, but I had Steve Smith, who's done some air war games, and then he of course has done the submarine games. He's very successful, and he sent me some of those because I'm just not usually into that. And he said, "Hey, just play them. You don't even need to review them." And I still need to get them played. And he was not. He was not on the boat when it sank. I didn't know it sank. I guess. I don't know the full history there. I suppose. What is Bill here? Bill Broadhurst, Escape from the Deep should be a movie. Story of USS Tang. That's why I love history. A higher call. I remember that now that you mentioned it. Oh my goodness, yes. John, no, they haven't. They have just presented it. Yes. I've seen where it's been presented, and I thought they said it was going to come out in the first quarter. And then I saw where they said that there would be PDFs available, I think, immediately upon backing. But the printed book, obviously, with all the supply slowdowns, would take a little longer. Let me see what we got here. I don't know about my father there for a locomotive. My father's job was he kept very close log on the fuel. Got it. Well, anybody on the Tang, hello, hero. Heck, anybody tending the subs, hero. So, unbelievable stories there. Yet believable. Let's see, where are we at? We're at an hour 12, so I'm probably going to cut this pretty soon. Ron, are you still on? It shows you may be muted. Oh, there you go.
I'm here.
Got it. Anything you want to add or before we sign off?
Looking forward to the next session.
I know. We'll get ready.
I think Dan can only play every other week, or
yeah, I think. Well, we'll have to find out. I know he was possibly going to be getting a new job, which may be why he wasn't able to make this. Of course, real life always comes first. We have all talked about that. Let's see. Did Dan get a new job? Yes, he did.
But it's only a 4.
That's not right. Only a 4. It's just a middling job, but it makes his heart warm though. He likes that job. We are on schedule to film tomorrow, and usually I'll get that show out on Sunday as well. I will continue to reach out to Dan just to make sure that's okay. Like I said, he may have picked up this job and it may have caused a change of his schedule. But I'll confirm that with you here. Let me look at the last comments here. Vorpal had one. They called him something like a yeoman. Yeah, I think a yeoman. I don't know what it means. I guess I thought I kind of knew. It's kind of like a senior NCO on a sub. I thought. Beck, thanks for the broadcast, gents. Stay frosty. Will do, Beck. Thank you. 4 equals grocery store clerk. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Well, now we got to go one more time. Maybe he can improve that. Let's see what he got here, Ron. One more check. Oh, there we go. We're up to a 10 of hearts.
There you go.
He's improving. He's already been promoted. All right. That'll do enough of that. Ron, thank you for coming on, and thank you for everybody participating. Your great questions. I love coming on, and good to see you guys and gals. So, Bank Vice President. Sorry, I got to get Vorpal in one last time. All right, now we'll wind down and